In this video, I'm going to show you 19 habits that took my car past 700,000 miles, things any driver can do without being a mechanic. And here's the best part. None of these tricks require special tools, expensive upgrades, or crazy driving skills. They're simple changes in how you drive, fuel, and maintain your car. But the results? They'll outlast almost every car around you. Stick with me until the very end, because habit number 1 is the secret that ties everything together. It's the single most important habit, and if you ignore it, all the others won't matter. But before we get there, let's start with the habit that every fuel pump technician wishes you would ignore. Trick number 19, follow the quarter tank rule. You've probably done it, running the tank down to the fumes, hoping to squeeze one more day out of a fill-up. I get it, gas is expensive, and sometimes payday feels too far away. But here's the ugly truth. Every time you drive on empty, you're slowly murdering one of the most expensive components in your car, the fuel pump. Here's what most drivers don't know. Your fuel pump isn't just a motor that pushes gas to the engine. It actually relies on the gasoline itself to stay cool and lubricated. When you dip below that quarter tank line, you're exposing the pump to hot air instead of fuel. Over time, that heat cooks the seals, dries out the motor, and burns the pump alive from the inside. I've replaced pumps that failed at 70,000 miles, not because the car was old, but because the owner constantly drove on fumes. That's a $600 to $1,000 repair, all for ignoring a simple rule. And that's not the only danger. Think of your gas tank like a fishbowl. Over the years, dirt, sediment, and even tiny bits of rust settle at the bottom. When you're running low, your pump is sucking up all that debris and blasting it straight into your fuel filter and injectors. Best case, you clog the filter and the car starts running rough. Worst case, you damage your injectors, starve your cylinders, and trigger expensive misfires. The fix couldn't be simpler. Never let your tank drop below a quarter full. It doesn't matter if you drive a Toyota Corolla or a Ford F-150. The rule applies across the board. Think of it as cheap insurance. You're not just keeping gas in the tank. You're buying years of extra life for your entire fuel system. So, the next time that low fuel light pops on, don't treat it like a challenge. Treat it like a warning. Top off early, protect your pump, and keep your car running strong past 200,000 miles. Trick number 18, gentle starts, no hard launches. We've all seen that guy at the stoplight. The second it turns green, he slams the gas like he's on the starting line at a drag strip. Tires screech, engine screams, and for what? To beat a minivan to the next red light? What most people don't realize is that those hard launches aren't just loud. They're slowly destroying the drivetrain from the inside out. Here's what happens under the hood. When you stomp the gas from a dead stop, your engine and transmission go from 0 to maximum stress instantly. Motor mounts, those rubber cushions that keep the engine stable, get slammed with torque they weren't built for. After a few months of that abuse, the rubber starts to crack. One day you'll shift into drive, and the whole engine will lurch forward like it's trying to jump out of the car. That's a $500 to $1,000 mount replacement you could have avoided by simply pressing the gas a little softer. But it doesn't stop there. Hard launches cook your transmission fluid. That fluid is designed to stay cool while shifting smoothly. But when you spike it with heat during a sudden launch, it starts breaking down. Burnt fluid means slipping gears, delayed shifts, and eventually a transmission rebuild that costs more than some cars are worth. I've seen transmissions die at 90,000 miles just because the owner thought every green light was a race. And don't forget clutches. If you drive manual, dumping the clutch at high RPM is a fast track to a $1,200 repair bill. The clutch disc gets scorched, the flywheel overheats, and before long, you're stuck on the side of the road with no way to get into gear. The truth is, smooth acceleration isn't just about being gentle on your car. It also saves fuel, reduces tire wear, and makes your car feel more refined. You don't need to crawl off the line, but easing into the gas instead of hammering it can literally add years to your drivetrain's life. So next time the light turns green, leave the drag racing to the track. Smooth, steady launches are how you take a car not just past 100,000 miles, but past 700,000. Trick number 17, stop topping off the gas pump. Most drivers think that when the pump clicks, giving it one more squeeze means you're getting a little extra gas for your money. But in reality, that extra half cup of fuel is silently destroying one of the most delicate systems in your car. Here's what really happens. When the pump clicks, your tank is already full. Forcing more gas in doesn't stay in the tank. It floods into the evaporative emissions system, the network of lines and charcoal canisters designed to capture fuel vapors. And that system was never built to handle raw liquid fuel. I've pulled evap canisters out of cars where they were so soaked in gasoline that the charcoal inside had turned into a mushy brick. The result? Check engine lights, failed inspections, and in some cases, gas literally leaking onto the ground through vent lines. And the repair isn't cheap. Replacing a saturated canister runs anywhere from $350 to $900, and that doesn't include sensors or valves that may have been fried in the process. And here's the kicker. Topping off your tank doesn't even give you more usable gas. The pump shuts off for a reason. The expansion space in your tank is designed to leave room for vapors. Take that away, and not only do you damage the evap system, but you also risk spills that eat away at your paint and your wallet. So, the next time you hear that click at the pump, don't fight it. Put the nozzle back. Walk away. Because one little habit at the gas station can mean the difference between a $40 fill-up and a $900 repair bill. Trick number 16, regular transmission drain and fills. Most drivers think transmission fluid is lifetime. If it's still red and doesn't smell burnt, it must be fine, right? Wrong. That's exactly how transmissions die quietly before 150,000 miles. Here's the ugly truth. By 60,000 miles, that fluid is hiding a cocktail of clutch material, microscopic metal shavings, and varnish. To the eye, it looks okay. But inside, it's basically liquid sandpaper, grinding away at gears and wearing out seals every time you shift. I've torn down gearboxes that looked spotless on the dipstick, only to find clutch packs glazed and valve bodies chewed up beyond saving. And when that wear finally shows up, it's never small. First you'll feel slipping between gears, then harsh shifts, then the dreaded transmission rebuild quote, usually $3,500 to $5,000, sometimes more depending on the car. At that point, it's too late. The fix is simple. Don't wait for symptoms. Drain and fill your transmission fluid every 60,000 miles, or about every 6 years. If it's a hybrid, you can stretch closer to 90,000, but don't gamble. And here's a critical detail. Never let anyone talk you into a power flush on a neglected high-mileage transmission. If it hasn't been serviced in years, that flush will wash away the sludge that's barely holding it together. In that case, stick with a gentle drain and fill and keep it alive as long as possible. One more thing, always use the fluid your manufacturer calls for. Toyota's WS, Honda's DW1, Mopar ATF +4. These aren't marketing gimmicks. Using generic fluid is the fastest way to turn a healthy transmission into a paperweight. Do this one habit right, and you'll never have to face the heartbreak of replacing the single most expensive part of your car, short of the engine itself. Trick number 15, coast early into stops. Brakes are one of the most abused and overpriced systems on your car. I've lost count of how many customers came in thinking their rotors were defective, when the truth was they drove like every stoplight was a finish line. Slam the pedal every time, and you're cooking your brakes to death. Here's what happens. Every hard stop dumps 1,000 to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit of heat straight into your rotors. Do that daily, and you'll warp them. Pads glaze, rotors crack, and brake fluid boils. Suddenly, that $60 set of pads has turned into a $900 brake job per axle. I've seen cars under 5 years old needing complete brake overhauls just because the driver refused to look ahead and slow down early. The fix doesn't cost a dime. Instead of hammering the brakes at the last second, ease off the gas earlier and let the car coast. Use engine braking going downhill. It's free, it's safe, and it puts zero stress on your rotors. Do this, and you'll easily double the lifespan of your pads and discs. And here's a pro tip. When it finally is time to replace brakes, don't cheap out. Bargain bin pads might save you $50 today, but they'll chew through rotors twice as fast, squeal non-stop, and leave you back in the shop in half the time. Stick with OEM or trusted brands, and you'll not only stop better, you'll stop replacing them so often. Change nothing about your driving except this habit, and you'll literally save hundreds every single year. Trick number 14, don't idle forever to warm up. A lot of drivers think they're being kind to their engines by letting them idle for 10 to 15 minutes on a cold morning. Truth is, that's not warming it up. It's slowly killing it. I've torn down engines where the oil looked like thin, watery sludge, and the culprit wasn't neglect. It was years of daily idling. Here's what's really happening. After about 30 seconds of idling, unburned fuel starts slipping past the pistons and washing down the cylinder walls. That raw gas strips away the protective oil film and dilutes what's left in the crankcase. Your synthetic suddenly has the protective power of dishwater. That's why I've seen cylinder walls scored, compression lost, and lifters worn out in engines that were otherwise maintained perfectly. The smarter way? Start the car. Let it settle for 30 seconds, then drive gently for the first couple of miles. Oil temperature rises 8 times faster while driving than while idling. That means your engine actually gets to operating temperature sooner, fuel burns cleaner, and components are fully protected instead of starved. This one habit alone will save you thousands over the life of your car. Skip the morning idle ritual. It's not comfort for your engine. It's a slow death sentence. Trick number 13. Flush coolant before it's too late. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a perfectly good engine destroyed by one single overheat. Drivers think, oh, it just crept into the red for a few minutes. I'll be fine. But aluminum heads don't forgive. At around 230 degrees Fahrenheit, they start to warp. One guy brought in his Tacoma after ignoring the needle for just 8 minutes. The result? A blown head gasket and a $3,800 repair bill. See, coolant isn't just about temperature, it's chemistry. Fresh coolant keeps the boiling point high, the freezing point low, and coats metal surfaces with additives that stop corrosion. But over time, that chemistry breaks down. It becomes acidic. It eats away at seals, gaskets, and even the radiator from the inside out. I've pulled radiators that looked clean outside, but were clogged solid with rust flakes inside, all because the coolant went untouched for a decade. And don't make the mistake of thinking green is green or red is red. Different formulas are not interchangeable. Mix them, and you can create a sludgy mess that clogs water passages like cholesterol in arteries. I've seen entire heater cores plugged solid because someone topped off with the wrong color. So here's the rule. Every 3 to 5 years, flush the system completely. Use exactly what your manufacturer recommends, nothing else. And always keep an eye on the reservoir. If it's dropping, you've got a leak. Coolant doesn't just evaporate. A $5 bottle of coolant added every week isn't maintenance, it's a warning light. Ignore this habit, and one overheat will cost you more than every single flush you'll ever do. Trick number 12. Scrub battery terminals regularly. Most people pop the hood, see a little white fuzz on the battery, and think it's no big deal. But that white crust is corrosion. Acid vapors reacting with the metal, and it's slowly choking your car's electrical system. I've seen starters struggle, alternators overwork themselves to death, and dashboards light up with random electrical gremlins, all traced back to one thing: neglected battery terminals. Here's the truth. Electricity hates resistance. Even a thin layer of corrosion can mean your starter motor isn't getting full power. That's why you get those slow, dragging cranks on cold mornings. Some folks think their starter is bad, or the alternator's dying, and they replace both for nearly $1,000. When in reality, all they needed was 10 minutes with a wire brush. I once had a customer ready to buy a brand new $900 starter because their car wouldn't turn over. I pulled the cables, cleaned off a chunk of corrosion the size of a coin, tightened it back down, and the car fired up instantly. Problem solved for free. Here's the fix. Every 3 to 4 months, pop the hood and actually look at your battery. If you see white, blue, or green fuzz building up, don't ignore it. Mix a little baking soda and water, scrub the terminals with a brush, and then coat them with dielectric grease or terminal protector spray. That stops corrosion before it starts. It's one of the cheapest habits you'll ever do, but it can save you from $1,000 repair bills and from being stranded when your car refuses to start. Trick number 11. Dump the junk weight. Most drivers treat their cars like rolling storage units. I've opened trunks packed with tools, boxes, sports gear, even cases of bottled water that have been riding around for months. The driver never thought twice about it, but here's the truth. Every extra 100 pounds adds strain you'll feel in 3 places: your fuel bill, your suspension, and your brakes. I had one customer who used his small SUV like a moving van. He loaded it with nearly 800 pounds of work tools, day in and day out. 2 months later, his shocks were blown, his tires were scalloped, and his alignment was completely ruined. That free storage space ended up costing him $1,400 in suspension repairs, plus a new set of tires. And here's the kicker. It could have all been avoided if he simply carried less. Think of it this way. Every time you brake, the extra weight is multiplied. That's more heat on your rotors, more stress on your pads, and shorter lifespan for your brakes overall. Same goes for suspension. Shocks and struts are designed to handle the car's weight plus passengers, not a rolling warehouse of junk. The fix is simple. Travel light. Go through your trunk and back seat every month. If you don't use it regularly, take it out. Check your door jamb for the GVWR, the gross vehicle weight rating. Subtract your car's curb weight, and that's your safe payload. And don't forget, passengers count too. Lightening the load improves fuel economy, saves your suspension, and keeps your car riding smoother for years. In other words, your car will thank you for every pound you leave at home. Trick number 10. Question. Every urgent repair. Walk into a dealership for a simple oil change, and somehow you leave with a $1,200 estimate. Sound familiar? I've seen it happen countless times, and I've sat across from customers holding a recommended repairs list that looked more like a shopping receipt than a service report. The truth? Half the items don't need to be done, at least not yet. I remember one case where a driver brought in his car for routine maintenance. The service advisor handed him a sheet showing he urgently needed a throttle body cleaning, brake fluid flush, and fuel injector service on a car with barely 25,000 miles. None of it was necessary. When he came to me for a second opinion, I showed him clean brake fluid, injectors working perfectly, and a throttle body that didn't need touching. That $600 upsell, pure padding. Here's the problem. Service writers are often trained to sell, not to protect your wallet. They know most customers won't question the list, especially if it's written with words like safety or urgent. But if you blindly sign, you're paying for the dealership's quota, not your car's health. Here's what to do instead. Always ask to see the problem. If they say your brake fluid is black, ask them to show you the sample. Compare their recommendations with your owner's manual. If it's not listed there, be skeptical. And if something feels off, get a second opinion, especially from an independent shop that isn't working off commission. Not every urgent repair is a scam, but a lot of them are exaggerated or flat out unnecessary. Questioning them doesn't just save you hundreds, it builds the habit of being in control of your car's maintenance, not the other way around. Trick number 9, change oil on realistic intervals. I can't count how many engines I've opened up, where the owner proudly said, I followed the dealer's 10,000-mile oil change schedule every time, and every single one of those engines was packed with thick black sludge. Pistons cooked, cam lobes scarred, and oil passages clogged like old plumbing. Why? Because those long intervals aren't designed to keep your engine alive forever. They're designed to get it past the warranty. Real-world driving isn't clean, steady highway miles. It's short trips, stop-and-go traffic, cold starts, hard idling, all of which break down oil way before the 10,000-mile mark. By the time you hit that interval, your oil isn't protecting your engine anymore. It's just circulating abrasive sludge. Here's the reality. Non-synthetic oil should be changed every 3,000 miles. Full synthetic can stretch to 5,000 to 7,000 miles if you're driving more gently. Yes, it costs a bit more in the short run, but it's nothing compared to a $4,000 rebuild. Think of it this way. Every oil change is like cheap insurance for your engine's future. And if you're finding these habits helpful, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the next habits are the kind of insider tips mechanics don't exactly love me sharing. Trick number 8, don't ignore weird sounds. If your car starts making a new noise, don't turn up the radio and hope it goes away. Every tick, squeal, or clunk is your car waving a red flag before something fails completely. I've seen it too many times. What could have been a $40 belt swap turns into a $1,200 alternator replacement because the owner didn't want to deal with it yet. Here's the truth. Small problems are loud, big problems are quiet, right before they break. That faint clunk under your feet, it's not just character. It could be a CV joint about to snap. That high-pitched squeal, probably your serpentine belt slipping before it chews into your pulleys. Even a light ticking noise can be a starving lifter, which, left unchecked, leads to a full engine teardown. The trick is to track the sound. When does it happen? Cold starts, sharp turns, braking, hitting bumps. That info can save you hundreds when you bring it in, because you've already narrowed the problem. Trust me, ignoring noises doesn't make them go away. It just makes the repair bill louder. Trick number 7. Replace spark plugs before they misfire. Spark plugs are cheap, engines aren't. Yet, I can't tell you how many engines I've opened up where the plugs were run way past their limit. The electrodes wear down, the spark weakens, and suddenly coils are overheating. Pistons are getting hammered, and the fuel isn't burning clean anymore. One $60 set of plugs turns into a $2,000 engine problem just because they were ignored. Here's the trap. Most people believe the 100,000-mile iridium plug marketing. That number is under perfect lab conditions. In the real world, stop-and-go traffic, short trips, dirty fuel, you're better off checking them around 60,000 miles. A fresh set means smoother starts, better fuel economy, and a car that feels like it hasn't aged a day. And here's my shop rule. Never cheap out on plugs. Go with quality. NGK, Denso, Bosch, whatever your manufacturer specs. Bargain bin plugs misfire early, foul faster, and can even seize in the head. Spend a little now, and you'll keep your ignition system healthy for hundreds of thousands of miles. Neglect this, and you're not just burning fuel, you're burning your engine's future. Trick number 6, do the engine mount check. That extra vibration you feel at idle, it's not just how the car runs. 9 times out of 10, it's a worn-out engine mount slowly tearing your car apart. I've seen drivers ignore that subtle shake for months, only to end up with cracked exhausts, bent axles, and transmissions shifting like they've been rear-ended. Engine mounts are designed to hold thousands of pounds of force steady while you drive, but when the rubber inside starts to split, the engine begins slamming against the frame with every acceleration. You don't see the damage right away. It's silent abuse that spreads through the whole drivetrain. Here's how you check. Foot on the brake, shift into drive, and give it a light rev up to 2,000 RPM. If the engine jumps more than an inch, that's not normal. That's a failing mount. Replace it before it takes something else with it. And don't cut corners here. Cheap mounts collapse fast. Go OEM or trusted aftermarket brands built to last. It's one of those hidden parts nobody thinks about until the repair bill shows up. Catching a bad mount early is a $200 to $400 fix. Waiting turns it into a $2,000 nightmare. Trick number 5, wash the undercarriage. Most people baby their paint job, but completely ignore the real killer hiding underneath. I've put cars on a lift that looked showroom shiny on top, but underneath, frames so rusted you could poke a hole with a screwdriver, brake lines eaten through like twigs, fuel tanks leaking because the metal had turned into flakes of rust. And the cause? Road salt, winter brine, and plain old grime left to sit season after season. Rust doesn't need years to show up. Just one salty winter can kickstart corrosion that never stops spreading. The fix is simple. Rinse the undercarriage. A $5 car wash with underbody spray once a month in winter, or once a week if you're in heavy snow country, can literally save your frame. Even in rainy climates, mud and grit trap moisture and start the rot. It's not just about looks, it's about safety. I've seen brake lines snap while towing, control arms rust through on daily drivers, and fuel lines start dripping on hot exhausts, all from skipping a rinse. A clean undercarriage isn't vanity, it's survival. Trick number 4, don't overload or tow beyond limits. I can't tell you how many people treat their SUV like a dump truck. One customer loaded his crossover with nearly 800 pounds of tools for a weekend job. 2 months later, his shocks were blown, his alignment was toast, and his tires were chewed bald. That free-hauling gig ended up costing him $1,400 in suspension repairs, and he still had to buy new tires. Every car has a payload rating stamped right on the door jamb. Most drivers never bother to look at it. They just cram in luggage, passengers, and gear until the suspension sags. But here's the reality. Every 100 pounds over the limit isn't just a little extra stress. It multiplies under braking, cornering, and towing. It overheats transmissions, bends control arms, and cracks springs. I've even seen frames warped because owners insisted on towing a boat or camper their vehicle was never designed to pull. Once that damage sets in, there's no easy fix. You're in for thousands in repairs, or worse, a car that's never quite right again. So, if you want your car to see 300,000, 500,000, even 700,000 miles, respect its limits. Check your GVWR, subtract the curb weight, and stick to what's safe. Your wallet and your car will thank you. Trick number 3, always engage the parking brake. Most drivers think throwing the shifter into park is enough. It's not. Inside your transmission, there's a tiny piece of metal called the parking pawl. It's about the size of your finger, and it's the only thing keeping thousands of pounds of car from rolling when you don't use the e-brake. I've opened up transmissions where that pawl snapped clean in half, usually after years of holding all the weight by itself. The repair bill? Nearly $3,000 just so the car wouldn't roll away again. Here's how it happens. You park on a hill, let go of the brake, and let the whole car rest against that pawl. Over time, it bends, cracks, and eventually shatters. And once it goes, you're not just paying for a new part, you're rebuilding the entire transmission. The fix is so simple, it's almost embarrassing when people don't do it. Set the parking brake before you shift into park. That way, the brake holds the weight, not the transmission. Uphill, downhill, even on flat ground, make it a habit. Do this every time, and you'll never have to find out how expensive that tiny piece of metal really is. Trick number 2, service small leaks immediately. A little drip on the driveway doesn't look like much. I've had customers tell me, "Oh, it's just sweating a bit of oil," or "That's normal for an older car." Let me be clear, fluids don't evaporate on their own. If it's leaking, it's failing. I've seen a $10 coolant hose ignored until it cooked the head gasket. $3,800 gone overnight. A slow transmission fluid leak that could have been fixed with a $2 seal turned into a $4,500 rebuild. Even a small oil leak left unchecked can starve bearings, chew up pistons, and wreck the entire engine. The worst part? Leaks don't just stay leaks, they spread. Oil softens rubber bushings. Coolant eats wiring connectors. ATF drips onto exhaust pipes, and suddenly you're dealing with smoke, or even a fire hazard. The smart play is to fix leaks the moment you spot them. Get under the car, trace where it's coming from, and replace the failing hose, gasket, or seal. $100 now beats thousands later, and it keeps your car from becoming the next horror story in a mechanic's shop. Trick number 1, drive with patience. After everything we've covered, oil changes, leaks, spark plugs, brakes, it all comes down to this: patience behind the wheel. I've seen drivers who did every service on time, but still beat their car into an early grave with hard launches, panic stops, and reckless driving habits. Smooth, steady driving is the multiplier for every other habit. When you accelerate gently, shift cleanly, and give your car time to do its job, you're reducing stress on the engine, transmission, suspension, and even the tiny electronic components. I've watched 2 identical cars side by side, one owned by a patient driver, the other by someone who treated the road like a racetrack. 10 years later, one had passed 400,000 miles with original components. The other barely limped past 120,000 before becoming a parts car. The truth is, most cars don't die from one big failure. They die from 1,000 little stresses added up over time. And the best way to stop that cycle isn't a magic product or a secret mechanic's trick. It's consistency. Drive smooth, stay patient, and your car won't just survive, it'll outlive most owners. And there you have it, 19 habits that took my car past 700,000 miles, while most never even make it to 150. None of this is theory, these are real habits that save engines, transmissions, and wallets every single day. If this helped you spot mistakes you might have been making, hit that like button. It lets me know this is worth sharing. And if you want more straight, no-nonsense car advice that dealerships won't tell you, make sure you're subscribed with the bell on. Trust me, the habits you pick up here could be the difference between a car that dies young and one that lasts a lifetime.